Hello and welcome to some more Total War Warhammer 3. I'm the HeirofCarthage, and I'm reading this in an extremely overdramatic voice to make... Okay, sorry, I had to tease CA a little bit. Don't get me wrong, the video they made was good, and I'm sure the guy doing the video has a lot more voice acting skills than I do, but I just thought that the voice acting was a little bit over the top with the way they do that dramatic casting, but hey, whatever. Not a big deal. What I'm really here to talk to you about is the quality of life improvements that CA detailed for us, which is actually very exciting. I say that, some more exciting than others, but still good stuff that I think we're going to see. I'm going to let the trailer kind of just loop here in the background. I'll have a link to both this video from the Creative Assembly and to their blog post. The blog post is where I'm going to be getting the information that I cover. So make sure and check out those links so that you have all the information you need when the game releases. Okay, seriously, I'm done with the dramatic voice. Let's jump into this. The changes that we're going to be talking about today, I think one of the biggest ones is going to be the ability to toggle a flying unit. Now, I think CA actually made a mistake in their own video. They said that all flying units have a toggle. That is actually not true, and I've seen that in their own battle footage that they've given us. Almost all flying units have a toggle. Basically, any flying unit that has a little ability next to it that says can fly down on the little ability bar of the unit stats, those can be toggled. There are some that cannot. Like, for instance, when we looked at the Sky Lantern in the Cathay footage, Sky Lanterns were not able to be landed. So there are some units that can't land. So again, they made a bit of a mistake there, but not a big one. And I don't think it was really intended. But yeah, toggleable flying is really cool. It's going to add the ability to not suffer that leadership penalty when you get stuck with a flying unit in the air. It allows for better rear charges sometimes, and just the ability to get in and do things that only make sense, right? Flying things don't always have to be flying, so I think this is a great change. The next thing that they detail is changes to hotkeys, and this is a really interesting change. They say they've added idle unit hotkeys. Now, this is something we see in a lot of traditional strategy RTS, where you can click a button and go to your idle villagers or military units. It's going to be the / key, and when you push that, it cycles between units that are not actively engaged in combat or following a movement path. So let's say that you have units that come back from routing and you're constantly wanting to check for them. You can just quickly tap the / key. Special abilities now have their own hotkeys too. That's going to be really useful instead of having to rely on on-screen mouse clicks to go as quickly. Guard mode, skirmish mode, fire at will, all of them are on hotkeys. And so this will all make things, I think, a lot more usable when we get into Game 3. So I think these are good changes. Also, there was a way for you to push the control and / and I think it selects all the units that were inactive. So again, a very nice change there and a very needed quality of life. Formations. In 3 Kingdoms, you may have noticed that you could grab units. Like if you left-clicked and selected a bunch of units and then right-click and drag it, they would automatically come into a formation. Now, most of the time, those formations were kind of crappy, but it was, still sometimes better than nothing. But they've made some changes here. So that's coming back, where when you grab the units and right-click and drag them, they will go into a formation, says placing melee units ahead of ranged units. That's going to be good as a general rule. It says when using the set formation feature, it now generates much more usable formations. And it says in standard campaign field battles, an army's formation at the end of deployment phase will be snapshotted and used as the default in that army's next battle. I love that, because we're constantly having to reset up your army in the exact same formation almost every battle. So I think that's a great change. Healing and fatigue. Healing is now, and I've seen this as we've been watching these battle videos, healing is now placed in as a percentage of max health per second rather than a fixed number of hit points. So I think that makes a lot of sense. It can now be, so healing can be stunted by fire damage, which is kind of cool. I think that makes sense according to the lores. And then fatigue modifying abilities now take place over time instead of all at once. So some interesting changes to healing and fatigue. Bracing, which has been a part of Total War for quite some time, like I think going all the way back to like Rome 2. And basically, when it comes to bracing, they now have an icon that you'll be able to see. You'll see that in their video where it shows a little shield icon. You'll now know for sure when your unit is braced. And this is good, because that was sometimes hard to tell in the past unless they'd been sitting still for a long period of time. Not only that, but halberds and other long spears in the game are going to have charge reflection, which will make them much more tanky at resisting large charges. Should be good to help stop some SEM cheese, and then, of course, just stopping the AI from getting a bajillion kills on you just because they're the AI and they can when they charge you from the front and the inevitable YOLO. Now, from spells, there was an interesting change here. Basically, there's an option you can tick on or off, so it's not always on. You have the option to turn this on or off. that when you go to click a spell and apply the spell, that it goes into half time. This would allow newer players, presumably, or just players who are wanting to have fun, really target their spell very well because it slows the game down. I actually kind of like that, and I'll probably use this in my campaigns. Some of them, at least. Maybe we'll do some harder ones where we take that out as a challenge, but I think it's a pretty neat feature, and I think it's really good for new players. And like I said, even for players like myself, could be fun. Magic resistance has been reworked into spell resistance, which only applies versus actual spells. It means that magic attacks are no longer often a hindrance. I think that's probably a good change overall there too, where the two can be separated, right? I think that's definitely a good thing. New Thorns spell effect, including a rework for the Lore of Life spell Shield of Thorns. So obviously something's going to change there. Haven't seen exactly what it is. They've changed health bars. One of the big things you all may have noticed is they have tick marks at 25, 50, and 75%. That'll be particularly useful on single entity monsters since we have a new wound system that come into play at those respective health amounts. So it'll make it a little easier to know how much health is left on your unit on the unit bars. And they also introduced what they called a lazy unit bar, which is where whenever some damage is taken, it kind of models some of the colors so that you can see the difference of where the health is at and where it was at only moments ago. And then it drains out a few seconds later so that you're able to see how much damage a spell did or some other unit charge did or something like that. Stats and unit panels, you can now see the entity mass in the stat tooltip. Ability attributes and resistances can be expanded into a more readable list. And then the 3-tier unit system is now visible on the unit info panel, which will make it a little bit quicker for you to identify these on the battlefield. In custom battles, you can no longer pick the sub-faction. However, but when you pick your race, you can then select a color profile. This will allow people to still change up the colors of factions without having to necessarily pick a specific sub-faction of that race. Custom battle maps can be searched for and filtered. That is going to be a nice feature. You can change your unit size setting in the custom battle lobby now instead of having to globally set it in options. I think that's also a great change. And then they improved army preset saving with filtering, searching, and being able to view only specific races and battle types. So again, these are some nice quality of life updates. And then they added a new unit browser as a sister page to the spell browser, so that'll be helpful. And there's a general overhaul of the UI for various menus, from new games to campaigns, custom battles. We'll get to see more about that as time goes on. Anyway, some interesting news today, and I am covering this. I took a poll recently on my channel, and basically 90% of the people on my channel basically said that either me covering this news frequently, or at least when it seems relevant, would be helpful to them. I didn't previously make a lot of news videos because I just didn't think you all would find it helpful. And then, I thought to myself, what, I should ask and see what people say. And sure enough, most of you wanted it. So here it is. And I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will continue to cover relevant news topics when they come out. I may not cover every last single detail that CA releases because, my gosh, they do release a ton of stuff about this game. Or I may just wait till like the end of the week and recap in one video some of the things that they did throughout the week, right? So I'll reserve the right to go down one of those roads. But since you all wanted it, here it is. And please let me know in the comments what you think about it. Is this video helpful? Did it cover something you needed? If you liked it, click the like button. And if you want to have more Warhammer 3 news, make sure to go click the subscribe button. And of course, if you want YouTube to possibly send you notifications, you can click the bell too. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Make sure to come back soon and get more dramatic voiceovers on the latest Warhammer 3 news from the Heir of Carthage.